The White House telling Fox Business rumors of the tax plan's demise have been greatly exaggerated, but still there are signs today that the president's next agenda item may hit the same hurdles as health care did. Faced with deep divisions inside his own party, President Trump's hopes of reaching out to the Democrats, like he said, may be in peril after the epic battle to get a Supreme Court pick confirmed. Our next guests say, want to get something done? Take a page out of our books. Way back in '97, both were present on Capitol Hill as the Balanced Budget Act, originally sponsored by then-Congressman John Kasich, made its way to the president's desk. That was President Clinton, to be signed after winning support from both parties. We bring in former Republican Senator Judd Gregg of New Hampshire and former Democratic Senator Byron Dorgan of North Dakota. Welcome, both of you. All right, with your experienced eye, gentlemen, at this point, after the nuclear option was invoked, are the Democrats going to get on board? Byron Dorgan, they're your people. You tell us.
Well, first of all, I think everyone understands tax reform is really important to do, but it's also very hard to do. And there's a lot of rancid partisanship on Capitol Hill. But I would say this. It would be important for the country and for our future to do tax reform, make it simpler, make it more fair. And let me just tell you, I was part of the last tax reform effort. All the way back in 1986, I was on the Ways and Means Committee. A Republican President, Ronald Reagan, called for it. A Democratic chairman of the Ways and Means Committee wanted to do it, Dan Rostenkowski. And the first day of the markup, something unusual happened. As they closed the door and a lot of members sat around this big room, the Jim Baker, the Treasury Secretary, was actually in the first day of the markup, along with Dick Darman, the Assistant Treasury Secretary. Republicans sitting in a Democratic-controlled committee. The reason is Congressman Rostenkowski said, we're going to demonstrate that we're going to start out in a bipartisan way. And frankly, that's the only way it can get done.
Senator Gregg, I'm sure you remember times of bipartisanship. What was the most significant moment where you worked with Democrats, and why can't this get done today? We just lost our light, but you know what? What you say is just as important, so keep talking.
Okay. I was in the room, too, with Byron, and that was a huge positive event, and it was totally bipartisan. I'll tell you, however, that basically the next event that really replicated this was the Simpson-Bowles Commission, where you had a totally bipartisan effort. We produced a balanced, very aggressive tax reform bill, reduced rates, top rate down to 25%, took out a lot of deductions and exemptions. Byron's absolutely right. The only way you can do this is step on a lot of toes, and you have to do it on both sides of the aisle, and both sides of the aisle have to be engaged in it. The problem we have today, unfortunately, is that there is this rabid partisanship on both sides of the aisle. The leadership of both parties have to step above that and say, listen, we need this for the country, and we can do it for the country. You know, Ron Wyden and I wrote a bill, a bipartisan tax reform bill, which again cut rates dramatically down to 25%. Took us 2 years of negotiation to do it.
Wow.
So you got the people there who know how to do it. Honestly, if you put Byron and I in the room together, we could do it.
I know.
But as a practical matter, we're not there.
Right.
So let's get some people in that room who can do it.
And let there be light. It's suddenly, as you struck that great tone. Thank you. But Senator Dorgan, give us a sense of what President Trump can do to move on from the nuclear option situation, which was just ugly from a Democratic standpoint, to say, all right, let's work together.
Well, you know, reach out, invite them to dinner, you know, get to know people. I just think that's the secret of politics. And I don't think, you know, frankly, President Barack Obama didn't do much of that. But, you know,
he didn't. That was a problem.
But listen, there are going to be times when people disagree very strongly. But you need to understand the next issue is something that you might want to work together on. And we need tax reform. We need smart tax reform. We need infrastructure investment. Yeah. These are things that we ought to have the best of what both parties can offer to move this country forward.
And Senator Gregg, before we go, you know Senator Chuck Schumer of New York, and he, of course, is the ranking Senate Democrat. Go inside his mind. What would you say where you could push him to that edge of let's work together?
Yeah, Chuck and I came into the Congress together, and we served over 30 years together. And I've always admired Chuck. I've always thought he's a very rational guy who wanted to make government move forward. I think, however, he's being forced to the left by this very partisan, very rabid group of folks in the Democratic Party who simply won't accept Donald Trump as president and don't want to allow him any victories. And that's a huge mistake, I think, for the Democratic Party. I think a win for the nation is a win for both parties.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Doing tax reform is exactly that, a win for the nation.
I say get both of you guys back in there, slap people around and say, let's get this going. Thank you so much.
Nice.
Good to see you, and happy holidays to you, Senator Dorgan and Senator Gregg. So great. This was one of my favorite interviews.